Good evening. I'm doing today's update at nighttime, mainly because I need to stay awake, and this is a good way to occupy myself in order to do so. The reason being, I have to take an injection tonight at 10 p.m. And rather than making Owen deal with a half asleep grumpy Missy while sticking a needle into that half asleep grumpy Missy, I thought I would just make it easier for him and try and stay awake in the first place. It's not that easy for me to stay awake right now because, like I mentioned in the last video, I have been very tired, probably as a result of the hormone boosters, and also the weather's getting colder. I always feel more tired in cold weather. And this week, because of the hormone boosters and my follicles growing, I feel extremely bloated and heavy. So that also slows me down. So I've been going to bed super early. Normally I would be done for the day. I'd be gone. But to pass the time, let me give you a little snapshot of our week in the form of my medications and shots, just because it's informative, I guess, but also it's just our life right now. So, in the mornings, first thing, I take thyroid pills and like a half pill. I have to take that at least 30 minutes before eating anything. Now, later in the morning, and this is a new one for this week, I take tryptophan. Owen has the pleasure of giving me another shot in the mornings. And they come packaged just like this. Each one gets its own syringe. Which, yeah, this one hurts more than the other one. Like, a lot more. Okay, then lunchtime, I take supplements. Now, I think most women who are preparing for pregnancy, they take some vitamin supplements, and you could have all sorts. The doctor recommends certain ones based on your blood test results, but I take this, which is a combination pill, and I find that really helpful because I don't have to remember several different bottles of different pills and what time to have them. So this is made locally too, so it's easier and cheaper. Yeah, and the doctor recommended it. And then in the evenings, I think I already showed you last week's, but this one, it's a hormone booster but combines two different solutions together. And it's the same format, an EpiPen, like that. Yeah, we started to move around where we put the shots because my belly's starting to get bruised up, just like my elbows where the blood tests are taken. So I've been sewing today. I made just a couple of loose dresses because anything that has a waistline right now is just hurting my tummy too much. So no trousers, like anything that presses right there by my belly button is just, yeah. So loose, baggy clothing is great. Anyway, the great news is after this 10 p.m. injection that I have to take, that's it for the injections. I can throw them away as of tomorrow. And then tomorrow I have to start a new tablet. I have to take one of these in the morning, noon, and evening. So 3 times a day, probably for a couple of weeks. This is until I have a pregnancy test. So we still have 2 procedures before we even get to that point. But yeah, I'd much rather take tablets than have a needle stuck in me. But yeah, I think I should confess that Owen is spoiling me to bits. He decided that a single chocolate after a single injection is not enough for me. And so now, whenever we have an appointment at the clinic, he will take us to a nice bakery afterwards and we pick out a nice pastry or sometimes cake and enjoy that at home with some coffee. But today, because it was the end of the shots, we got celebratory cake from a really fancy bakery near our house, and that was lovely. Like multiple layers of chocolate and truffles. So good. Anyway, Owen he's been great. I think people don't always understand what the partner's role is, because truly the physical burden of IVF does fall on the woman. But Owen is always quietly there with me the whole time, and I think the biggest sacrifice for him in this whole process is giving his time. So, for example, he will get up early in the morning and go do our grocery shopping or prepare food for the day. He's doing all the cooking. And then he'll come with me to my appointments. He doesn't always go in. There are tables outside and he'll sit there and do his work. But I have needed to ask him for help when I need some German translation. Especially this week, there were some issues that came up which really required more German skills than I had. So I was really glad that he was there with me, and just for emotional support as well. And I was really tired and kind of out of it in my appointments, so having him there to sort of guide me there and back home and make sure I'm okay was great. And then in the evenings, because his day is so disrupted, after dinner he'll work later into the evenings and complete his tasks for the day for work. So Owen has been really working hard for us as well. And I thought it would be interesting to hear his perspective a bit. So in the next video, we'll do a little question answer session with him. If you have anything specific you want to ask him, just leave a comment below, and preferably related to IVF. But I will filter the questions. But yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy to address it, because there's not a lot of information out there for partners, I think. The one thing I would say is to do something that's as physically and emotionally demanding as IVF, you really need to have a supportive partner. Otherwise, it would be quite difficult, and be on the same page. As for what's coming up next, we are doing the procedure to collect the eggs on Friday. So I was having quite slow development of my follicles, and then today the doctor said they suddenly developed and got bigger. So that's why I have to take the injection tonight. It has to be like 35 hours before the procedure, and the procedure will be early Friday morning. So we have to be at the clinic, both of us, at 8:45, and then I will probably have the operation in the morning and then stay at the clinic until like 2 in the afternoon. It's only a 20-minute procedure, but you have to stay until the effects of the anesthesia have worn off. And that includes checking that you're not nauseous, that you can walk okay, that you can drink and eat a little bit. So yeah, it's a full day. But at least I don't have to stay in the hospital overnight. And then they give you this pamphlet before the procedure, which they did for my surgery back in June as well. And I just think it's so funny. So there are some points you have to agree to. First is like you need somebody to come pick you up. Fine, that's fair enough. Second is don't take public transportation. So we'll take a taxi home. And the third one is don't make any big decisions right after the procedure. And I think the idea is that you're a bit out of it and you don't want to make any life-altering decisions while you're not all there mentally. And I just think that's such a funny thing to add. The anesthetist was like, yeah, don't order any dishwashers just after the procedure, or don't make a decision to move house. He meant it in good humor. So that's it for now. And look forward to hearing more from Owen next time.